At in-person meet, I had to go upstairs and remember how to get on YouTube and get to our channel. I'm like, oh crap.
Pulled in the parking lot, looking around, saying, who drove what?
Hi, Andrea. How are you? Good. Lance, you're still kicking yet, eh? Attaboy. I kept checking the obituaries, you know, but
Well, you're not there.
that's right. That's right. Does Peshta live in town or not?
I think they do.
Is that Rogers or no? That's Don's.
Oh, I don't know which one is married to Cleanville.
Yeah, yeah. But I mean the dad. Is the dad Don or?
I don't know. I don't know.
You know, I think it is.
Whenever you guys are ready.
Okay, you got 7 o'clock. All right, Councilman Cherney. All right, I'll call to order the City Council meeting for January 28th, 2021. Everyone please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, before we get going, just a reminder that per the governor's order, masks are required for the meeting. If you come up to the podium and speak, you can remove your mask while you're at the podium, and then after that, we ask that you put it back on. Roll call.
Steve Cherney.
Here.
Kevin Kadada is absent. Tim Rude.
Here.
Cindy Fuhr.
Here.
And Scott Palava.
Here.
Okay, approval of agenda. Tonight's agenda goes through 10N. Any additions, deletions, or corrections to the agenda?
Motion to approve the agenda as presented.
Motion by Councilman Palava, second by Councilman Cherney. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Approval of the minutes. Consider approval of the minutes from the January 4th, 2021 regular meeting. Any additions, deletions, corrections to the minutes?
Motion to approve your minutes.
Motion by Councilman Cherney,
Second.
second by Councilperson Fuhr. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. There are no public hearings. Presentation of citizens' petitions and comments. Comments limited to 2 minutes. So if you're not on the agenda, now is your opportunity to speak. Okay, on to the consent agenda. A number of items tonight: the monthly bills, the treasurer's report, the board and commission minutes. Consider approval of the city's pay equity compliance report. Consider approval to authorize staff to advertise for up to 3 seasonal public works employees at grade 1, step 6, $14.92 an hour. Consider approval to accept Dave Moan's letter of retirement from the Lonsdale Fire Department. And consider approval to make a conditional job offer to John Peshta as part-time police officer at step 1, $24.15 an hour. Would anybody like any of those items pulled for discussion?
Motion to approve the consent agenda.
Motion by Councilman Palava,
Second.
second by Councilperson Fuhr. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. There is no old business. On to new business. Consider approval of an electric utility easement agreement between the City of Lonsdale and Steel Waseca Cooperative Electric. Steve Nordahl. Welcome, sir.
Yeah, thanks for having us here. I guess, I don't know if you have do we have a drawing of that or is it just the,
It's included in their
it is,
in
okay.
their packet. Yes.
All right. And just as a quick note, maybe you can see the green line here. But what we're looking at is, if you follow, we only have the one circuit that comes across into this area. And if anything happens with this underground, we can't get power over there till it's fixed. So we're gonna come along 19 here on the north side, and then what the easement's for is that little pond area. And we'll bore underneath that and get up here where the library is, and then eventually head up north and grab that other section. So that way we have a redundant feed into that area for you.
I mean, that's still on, I think, didn't like McIntoons or some business had some trouble last year, is that?
Yeah,
kinda
it could
offset
have been
that?
last year or the year before, but
Before.
yes. And we want to be able to get that so we can get that in there. And
Okay,
No, I'm there, I'm just
Okay.
looking at, I'm
Okay.
scrolling through all the pictures here.
Okay.
okay, do you have any comments on the easement, Joel? Actual,
No, not really. The both the city attorney and the city engineer reviewed the agreement. It was acceptable. We did add, I think, 2 numbers to it, just addressing the Wetland Conservation Act, because it is a wetland, and then just not disturbing the surface, or if they do, restoring it back to the way that it was previously. Steel Osika is fine with that, so we would recommend approval of it. It's great that they're doing this to provide a redundant or a loop feed. So if something did happen at the intersection of Highway 19 and 8th Avenue Northeast, that loop kicks in, and that area of town, the northeast section of town, will still have power.
Your Honor, I had one question.
sure, Councilman?
Sir, hi,
Yep.
Steve Kearney. When the project starts, will it be a continuous project, or will it be done in sections?
no, that'll be, well, the part to get up to here will be done first for sure. To get over to this 3-phase area. So right up through here and into here. And then that gets us so we can feed it.
So feed up in here.
Yep.
When you start it, will this entire thing be done? at this-
Yes.
It will
Yep.
be.
And then what else is nice is we're going back here and we're gonna tie into hopefully the west circuit. Right now, we feed on the north, so then we can flip
Oh,
back and
both.
forth. And
Okay.
eventually, once we're up here, we'll have half the load
And-
here and half the load there.
And where's the switching station for that then? Is there a physical plant switch station somewhere? In other words, where you can actually, do you have to physically come out and throw a,
Yeah,
you
we'd
do?
have to
And
physically-
where's that located then?
That'll be right here, there's a switch right now.
There is.
This'll be a switch,
Okay.
and we'll have one here also.
Is that underground?
Yes, it's all underground, the stuff we're talking about.
Okay.
Yep.
That's all I had. Thank
And
you.
it'll be bored under the swamp, so, you don't,
Sure.
and we'll clean it all up, and we have to do environmental reviews for doing our work. So we have already put in for an environmental review through the state and everything before we can do anything.
Is there any cost to the city?
Nope, no cost.
This
Do
is
you-
county, correct?
Or
Or private with the county? How does that work? I don't,
No, Rice County wouldn't be involved in any right-of-way or anything that they'd have to get from MnDOT to cross.
they don't.
Correct.
They
under-
do.
Under Highway 19, but everything else would be in
Right,
in
right
city
here.
limits.
Okay, all right.
Do you have a timeline of schedule, start, and completion?
We're hoping that this summer sometime we can get it. It's just, how we're trying to get all our ducks in a row ahead of time. As long as construction keeps on its pace, hopefully by fall we're in there.
Okay. Okay, anybody have questions, comments?
Motion to approve, Your Honor.
Motion by Councilman Cherney,
A second.
second by Councilman Palava. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you. Consider approval of Resolution 2021-04, a resolution transferring $50,000 from the liquor fund to the park fund for the Trichka Park Warming House / ice rink project. Mr. Erickson.
Thank you, Mayor, members of the council. I believe it was back in September of last year, we brought a similar resolution transferring $50,000 from the liquor fund to the park fund to help finance the improvements at Trichka Park, the warming house, pavilion, and ice rink. When we presented this to the council initially, we had proposed that $100,000 be transferred from the liquor fund to help pay for this project. This would be the second half of that $100,000. We were fortunate last year to have strong sales at Lonsdale Liquor, and we're able to provide this contribution to the city to help offset some of those project costs. I don't know when that is here. If you guys have any questions or if she wants to say anything, but we are recommending that the resolution be adopted, and by doing so, $50,000 will be transferred from the liquor fund to the park fund for the Trichka Park Warming House and Ice Rink project, and that the transfer be effective 12/31/20. So the fund balance that you see in the treasurer's report, I think of just over $400,000 will be reduced to a little over $350,000.
And this, I assume, goes against the matching grant from the DNR and
Correct. Yeah, we've more than exceeded our
50%.
one-to-one contribution.
Sure. I think, we're really fortunate to have a liquor store, of course, or municipal that can provide funding for the parks and for this hockey rink. I drove past there tonight, and that hockey rink is a busy place. I don't know if you guys seen that, but it's really good. Did you have any comments, Lynette? Are you good tonight? Or?
I'm good.
All right, good, good.
Well, very well.
Good. Well, I just want to give you a big shout out for all your good work, and the of course advisory board, Councilman Cherney and Councilperson Fear and Joel, and obviously you're doing a good job if we get profit to transfer money. So very good deal.
Well, I move we approve Resolution 2021-04, transferring $50,000 from the liquor fund.
Motion by Councilperson Fear,
Second.
second by Councilman Palava. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. And again, big thank you to Lynette staff and the advisory board for all your work with the liquor store. Consider approval to promote Jessica Braz to full-time liquor store assistant manager at grade 3, step 6, $20 an hour. Mr. Erickson.
Thank you, Mayor, members of the council. A little background. When the liquor store opened, we had 2, if not 3, full-time employees. Lynette, the manager, Carolyn Corba was our assistant manager. She worked until November 1st of 2017 when she retired. At that time, we did not fill the position. Instead, we promoted Jessica Bratz and Sean Buckridge to lead clerks, which provided them more responsibility than the typical clerk of just running the register and stocking the shelves. And I'm paraphrasing. I know there's a lot more to it, but more management and inventory control and things like that. We did increase their pay at that time. Even with that increase, there still was a savings to the liquor store. Recently, the manager has recommended the position be reestablished and Bratz be promoted to the position of assistant liquor store manager. She was hired in March of 17, and as I said, promoted to lead clerk in October of 17. She's been a good and reliable employee, regularly works 80 hours or more each pay period, and is the manager's go-to employee when she needs help or assistance, filling shifts. She works a variety of shifts. She opens the store each Monday, and then also some Saturdays and Sundays, and other days in Lynette's absence. The Liquor Committee reviewed this at our January 5th, 2021 meeting and recommends Bratz be promoted to full-time liquor store assistant manager. Again, reason being she's qualified, she opens the store on a regular basis, and she's currently doing many, if not all of the responsibilities outlined in the job description, which is the next agenda item. I did contact several municipal liquor stores with comparable sales just to see if what their staffing levels consisted of. Many either had an assistant manager or a position of similar duties. or they were if they didn't, they were in the process of establishing the position and getting the approvals from their city council. This will be a increased cost to the liquor store. And because of that, over the last month, staff has worked at the liquor store, worked hard on increasing our gross margin percentage of wine and liquor, and similar increases for beer have been and are currently being implemented. At the staff level, we have discussed that if the position or when the position is full-time, limited to 80 hours a week unless absolutely necessary, someone calls in sick or for whatever reason unexpected. To do so will require some of our part-time employees to pick up an additional shift each month, or an additional part-time employee hired to work 2 Saturdays per month. And that's something that Lynette and I have been working on, and we'll wrap up here shortly. The fiscal impact of this recommendation would be a little over $13,000 annually due to the pay increase and health insurance. If a dependent would be added, the fiscal impact would increase to a little over $20,000. That's not anticipated at this time, but I guess you never know. Things change.
Joel, I just wanted to clarify, earlier you said 80 hours a week. I think you meant every pay period?
Yeah.
Okay, I just wanted to clarify. Otherwise, we're going to have one heck of a deal here.
80 hours per pay period. With the transfer from the parks, which was recently or just approved, to be made in December of 2020, the liquor store is projected to generate a profit while accounting for this increased fiscal impact. The alternatives would be to not reestablish the position, do not promote brats and advertise the position, or do not promote her to assistant liquor store manager or advertise the position. The only thing I did not include in the packet was vacation, and recently employees that we've hired to the city have been receiving 2 weeks of paid vacation. So in addition to the promotion and the proposed wage, I would also recommend that 2 weeks of vacation be credited upon the promotion being approved.
Okay, I assume the committee has reviewed that, agrees with that, or?
Yes.
Okay, any other comments or questions?
Well, I mean, from my experience, she's been a good employee, and we obviously want to keep our good folks here. And so I think I will make a motion to approve Jessica Bratz to full-time assistant store manager. So grade 3, step 6.
Motion by Councilman Palava,
Second?
second by Councilperson Fuhrer. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Consider approval of a revised job description for liquor store assistant manager. Mr. Erickson.
Thank you, Mayor. Well, with the recent reestablishing his position and promotion of Ms. Bratz to assistant liquor store manager, we went through the job description. According to our personnel policy, anytime positions are filled or being considered, the job description is supposed to be reviewed. The responsibilities really have not changed since the position was last filled towards the end of 2017. There were some wordsmithing done. I should find my staff report for what the changes were. Staff revised the approval date to be tonight. We revised to be consistent with the duties of liquor store manager, essentially in the absence of. And then we reduced the supervisory experience from 5 years to 3 years, given the where we're at and what we feel our necessities are for the position. So I guess unless there's any questions, staff would Make a recommendation to approve the revised job description for liquor store assistant manager.
So moved, Your Honor.
Motion by Councilman Cherney,
Second?
second by Councilperson Fuhrer. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Consider approval of Resolution 2021-05, a resolution approving refunding on-sale liquor license fees for the time period July 1st, 2020 to June 30th, 2021 due to COVID-19 and associated executive orders issued by Governor Tim Walz resulting in no on-premise consumption of food and beverages and social distancing / occupancy restrictions. Mr. Erickson.
Thank you, Mayor. Well, we're continuing the theme of liquor for the last few agenda items. Mayor Rude and myself were sent an email from, I guess, a conglomerate of the Whistle Stop, the Legion, and Smoke, looking for some relief due to the COVID-19 health pandemic and recent or long-term shutdowns, things like that. I apologize, I did not, I better double check, but I don't believe I included the email from the Whistle Stop requesting this. But essentially, it seems that the liquor establishments and restaurants in town were fortunate enough to be able to weather the storm up until the recent closure from mid-November to mid-January here a couple weeks ago, or up until then. But with the most recent closure, really hit them over the holidays and requested some type of relief, whether it's property tax assistance, abatement, or a reduction in liquor license fees. The fees the liquor licenses that the city issues are to the Whistle Stop for $2,200. Smoke has the same on sale on Sunday liquor license, $2,200, and then the Legion has a club license and a Sunday license. The cost to the city is around just under $5,000. The fees proposed to be refunded are for the current term, July 1st of 2020 to June 30th of 21. By approving the proposed resolution, the council would be refunding 100% of the on-sale liquor license fees paid for that license term. The alternatives would be to not approve the reduction in on-sale liquor license fees or determine an amount agreeable between members of the city council. And then included, I guess all that's included is the proposed resolution, but there was a lot of time put into this resolution. I wanted to, it's actually rather amazing that that they were able to weather the storm. When I added it up, they were closed for over 4 months and had to deal with reduced occupancy or other social distance requirements for another 5 months. So I'm glad that they were able to weather the storm and we didn't have any of them close. So it would be staff's recommendation to approve resolution 2021-05.
I do want to add that you kind of touched on that, but in talking to Terry and Milton and Andrew, that I think, as you mentioned, the first time around they were able to survive with their takeout business, and then when they kind of opened and then closed again, he said after the second time that they really got wiped out. People just went away from that, and it's really fortunate they're open now, and like you say, just to hang on through 5 months of being closed. It's pretty remarkable. I think they're I told them that we certainly presented, and I think the city council would support this, and they're very appreciative of all of us and our efforts to help them. I know in the past we tried to reach out through some of the CARES Act and all those kind of things, and then in addition for these three We actually, for Joel, forwarded some more information in regards to some county application aids. And then the state, of course, DEED, I think, has a program for liquor stores now. And we just kept reiterating that, we as a city will help as much as we can. And the Chamber of Commerce, too, we kind of directed towards Shannon and stuff. So, like I say, I think they're pretty appreciative of all
And
of
I
it.
do have a question for Joel.
Sure.
Joel, was there any consideration given to, rather than refunding the money, to let that money's applied to next year? In other words, rather than give money back now, it's just, was there any talk of that?
Not with the businesses. It
And-
was more of a immediate relief and some,
I
cash
would-
back in their
right.
pocket to pay some bills.
In my discussions, it's a cash flow issue. They like to have the cash now.
They want
and-
the cash
and then
now,
get
so-
up and running again, and then, at least that's the
well,
way they-
I would ask, besides the fiscal impact, what other impact do we have as a city by, there's really, it's not going to hurt us other than,
Nope.
no.
So the fees that we charge are, the max that we're allowed to charge are set by state statute. It's not a fee that has to be tied back to the cost of issuing the permit or license. So I think it's a small token that the city could do to.
I understand. I just wanted to make sure there wasn't anything we were going to be
We're-
losing money through anything additional.
No, some staff time of,
Yeah.
sending out the renewal licenses, prep for council to get them approved, printing off the licenses themselves, so.
Which is
Now,
relatively.
I think you touched on some of the program, there's some direct deposit to some of these bars and restaurants from what I've read or heard, or maybe familiar with that, but I.
Correct. I believe once the Minnesota legislature got in session earlier this month, there was, I don't know the exact amount, $188 million relief package that was for the hospitality industry. And as long as they had their electronic information with the state set up, my understanding was, and I'm not sure if they based it off of gross sales from the prior year or however they
It was a-
determined,
okay.
it was just automatically deposited into the respective accounts.
But that's one of those situations, like for Smoke, for example, they weren't around last year.
Correct.
So that,
Right.
that's,
Right.
it's a great help if all the
Exactly.
ducks are in a row, but unfortunately, they just hatched.
Right.
Your Honor, if I may again.
That way, Councilman.
Okay.
Good line.
It never ends, does it?
No.
Joel, is the resolution, I don't have it in front of me, but is the resolution written so that it's specific to COVID relief, so that we don't set a precedent for any type of hardship? I want to make sure that it's COVID related.
Yes, it is specific to COVID.
It is.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then any other time, it would have to be a resolution for that specific, this isn't a blanket one that,
Well, that's why I wanted to
Yeah.
make
Right.
sure.
Yeah, the
Yeah.
last whereas is, whereas because of these required closures and limitations imposed on social distancing and occupancy by these executive orders,
Right.
the city has been requested to refund the liquor licenses.
But is the word COVID in there?
Yes.
Yes, it is.
Okay, all right, then I'd move to approve this as written then, Your Honor.
Motion by Councilman Cherney,
Second?
second by Councilperson Fuhrer. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Consider approval of Resolution 2021-06, a resolution accepting a bid for the public safety facility. Melissa Stein, welcome. John's iPhone. I assume we're doing the wall, is that what we're doing here?
I think that way he can see us.
Okay, so hopefully you can see him. Yeah,
Oh.
Mayor, council members,
Okay.
thank you for having us today. I just wanted to give you guys an update for the Lonsdale Police Station. As you know, it was kind of an ongoing process and design process that we've been going through. On January 19th, we did bid this project. It was a publicly opened bid right here in the council chambers. We had, I would say, besides the number, a very great bid day. We had 19 bids
Oh
from
my
a
gosh.
general contractor, which is very high. It means that we had a lot of good bidders, a lot of, people aware of the project. Unfortunately, the bids did come in over from what we had estimated. What we do know is that the amounts were fairly together, so it didn't mean that we had really low lows or really high highs. It means our bid sets were really great documents. Unfortunately, it just came in higher than what we had expected. And so as you guys know, we did submit kind of a letter with some options. And so today I'm here to kind of talk through what we want to do, as a city for our next steps.
Okay,
So if you'd like, I can either go through those options or I can just open it up for discussion at the moment.
well, maybe just for the audience,
Sure.
maybe just give a brief summary of the various options.
Absolutely,
available. Yeah.
yes. So what we've outlined for you guys today was two options. Option one would be to postpone the award of the contract till we can get, and work with what our apparent low contractor is right now into a price that everybody agrees is fair. So what we would be doing is, we call it value engineering, but we'd be working with that contractor and actually getting their, low contracted numbers. So on the day that we would award it, whenever that might be in the future, you guys would know what that, deduct cost would be right then and there.
Will they work on a project value engineering without a signed contract?
They will. So it's in their favor to work with us because option two is to not award the project.
Right.
And so as they want, the job and they want to work on it, they are more willing to work with us, knowing that this job is, coming down the line opposed to not happening at all.
Melissa, go ahead.
Oh, go ahead. I was just going to say, does that delay the project while you negotiate the value engineering?
It does not. What it would do is it would just delay the award of the project. We would still anticipate starting construction in the spring as originally intended.
Right, because just from what I've been following in the industry, it sounds like steel and everything is just going up daily.
It is.
So I don't know if they're
Yep.
locked into a price, or if it drags out 60 days, does it add to the cost, or that's what I'm.
It doesn't. So since from when we bid, we can hold, the city has the option to hold the bids for 60 days, I believe is what we have called out in our contract. And so you guys have the ability to kind of work within that time frame. And you are right, we are seeing right now that steel is going up. However, we assume that our contractors are being aware of that and are anticipating it. And if that is a discussion, it's something that we will discuss with them at a later date. But we believe that they know what the schedule is. They're anticipating these things because they're seeing the market the way we are too, and that they're anticipating those upcharges.
Okay. Okay, go ahead,
Thank you.
Councilman.
Melissa, I want to understand you correctly. When you talk about value engineering, are you talking about the lowest bid here going back to them? Are you
Yep.
Are you?
Yep.
No, the way that I understand value engineering is that has to be laid out ahead of time when we initiate all the bids, so everyone has a chance to sharpen their pencil. That's the way I understand it. So I just, John, is that true or not?
I don't,
Mayor, I think
Best value.
Am I-
it's being confused with best value engineering.
Okay, then I stand
That has to
corrected.
be laid out in advance
Right.
and you select not only based on the bid price, but maybe schedule and some other things.
Right.
Okay, so
Right.
how do we define value engineering then? What's the definition of that?
So the value engineering is that we're working with kind of the contractor to understand what their numbers are, where their numbers are.
Not to change their numbers.
Not to change it. And what we would end up doing is we're working with them, but then once we have a contract in place, we
Okay.
would then officially adjust our documents.
So it's more of a memorandum or
So
understanding.
maybe John can correct me, but I always thought the value engineering is once you're in contract, and a contractor and a municipality come together on an idea and save money, then they both share in the savings.
Okay.
That's how I understood it, right?
Mayor and council members, that's frequently how it's done.
You have an echo here, Melissa. I don't know if you can.
Yeah, we're trying to get John in here and.
John is trying to
Have-
talk.
It's not on the phone. I don't know.
No, it's
It's not
the,
you, John, I'm sorry.
No, it's-
John, yeah, it's a different.
it's our two computers.
But the,
Oh, here, I'll just get out of Zoom.
this is similar to what we did with the, say, the hockey rink project, where we had a low bid, Pembroke was the low bid, and, you know, their bid was a little high, so we talked to them and said, hey, are there things you could do, you know, to try and get the price down without compromising the quality? They said, well, you know, we could save $6,000 if we avoided epoxy coated.
Right.
And so we evaluated that, we determined that we could go without epoxy coating. And so when we awarded the contract, we executed a change order for a deduct of $6,000.
Right,
Yep.
I
right.
think it's similar to that.
It
Correct.
is, yes, so
Okay.
we would
Okay.
work with them right now, so you get their numbers, right? So we're working with that contractor to get their numbers, so you know exactly, it's not like, oh, this is an estimate. You're gonna know what that deduct number is, but then once you're in contract, we will go and officially adjust our documents, and essentially our first change order, if you will be the deduct to the contract for whatever amount has been
Okay,
established.
I must be thick-headed, because I'm still thinking that if you're going to offer that to the lowest bidder, that should be also offered to everyone else, so that we know exactly what the number, if this isn't the exact number here, and then that number can change, that doesn't seem fair and equitable, and I don't think it's legal, based on my understanding of it. Because what you're saying is that, and to John was saying, is that, okay, we're going to change from epoxy to, I don't care, asphalt, whatever. But if that's not offered to all the rest of these, how can it be a fair bid? I don't understand it then.
It is legal to,
Let's have John
Well, hold on.
clarify.
John McNamara is on my
Yeah,
computer.
Mayor, that may be a process issue. The city could just as well award the contract.
Right.
And then immediately be negotiating
Right.
on the value engineering and then execute a change order.
So
Right,
what,
that's,
Just,
what is the process?
Well,
then?
let's-
I was
right.
like, I'm trying to get this
yeah.
defined here.
Is John on there?
Yes, John is
Okay,
on there.
just to
Yep.
clarify, in a MnDOT environment, a highway job, that's what you would do. You would award the contract, that's why I asked that, and then after that, you work out the value engineering. And typically, there's savings a little bit to both sides to give the incentive to the contractor.
And that's what we're
to-
doing here, Your Honor?
Well, that's what I think so.
Are we?
Maybe, well, John, are you there?
that is what we are proposing, yes.
It is.
Right. Is your John there?
I think so. John McNamara, are you there?
You might be muted, Melissa.
I was muted, but he should be able to talk.
Oh, yeah, you're right.
Oh, hold on, there's something happening.
So let me just clarify. Joel, you said that, so the contract would be awarded, because by law, we have to take the lowest bid, and we have that right before us if we accept it. Then, after the contract is awarded, then you go out and do your value add engineering.
Right.
Is that correct?
And just to add this, because you have a valid point. If you do it prior to events of the war,
Yes,
then
sir.
anybody
Yes,
can do
sir.
that.
Yes, sir.
That's why
I'm making
they're the
it.
low bid, they get the contract, and then you go back and you value engineering savings to both parties.
As long as that's
Right.
what's happening, Your Honor.
Right. You're exactly right. That wouldn't be fair to try and negotiate now prior to the
That's
contract.
correct, and that's my point, Your Honor.
Exactly right. I would agree with that. I think we should award it, and then you guys go back
Yes.
and negotiate the value engineering. Right.
That's
That's how I see it.
Yes.
No, I agree. I mean, you look at the Metcon versus, is it Q, or I don't know the pronunciation,
Key.
Key.
Yep.
But we're talking $15,000. Well, Metcon could, you know,
Right.
Sneeze
they,
at
they,
that.
they, you know, the
Right.
size of that company, they could go, oh, well, we can,
Right.
you know, we can make that
Exactly.
happen just with, you know,
Right.
in 2 minutes of paperwork.
Right.
They have that ability, and then they'd be the low bidder, so it's,
Yeah. I think you have to award it and then go back and, I mean, there, I don't know if buildings like MnDOT, but there's actually specs on how value engineering is laid out. Well,
Yes.
John would know that, how it's laid out and the processes and the savings. And like I say, the incentive for the contractor is to come up with savings that both parties share in. So the contractor would make some money and the city saves a bunch of money, and that's the theory behind it.
Right. You're correct, yes. Part of what we see is once they're already awarded, there's no incentive for them to actually help us get down to a lower amount.
Well, no, that's not true, because the savings is shared between the contractor and the municipality.
But if you've already approved a contract for $2.3 million,
Right. and
then
they-
they've already got that contract for 2.3.
Right, but it had, right.
They would then say, well, okay, if you have items that you want to VE, fine, we would do that, but they're not going to actively help us then try to find savings to help the city in the long run.
No, they will help you because they would share in that savings.
Yes.
Like on a highway job, for example, if you found a shorter haul road or shorter
Their margins
access-
could
right,
change, Your Honor.
Exactly, exactly. John, are you there? Or did you,
There.
did you catch some of that conversation or? He's not,
I think in this particular market, I have a pretty good case with the key to negotiate, a fair value for whatever work we would. So it'd be incumbent upon us to make sure that whatever value engineering we have is a good value for this, regardless of what's awarded today or whether.
but I think just to reiterate Councilman Cherney, he has a valid point. If you don't award the contract to the low bid, what's to say Metcon can't come back and say, or just like Scott said also, well, if we'd have known that, we could have bid, $16,000 cheaper. You know what I mean? That's why I think it's important you have a contract, I think, but,
Yes, I would agree. I think at this point in time, your only choice is to award it to key contracting or
Okay,
to whoever you bid it.
Then go
right,
back.
I would, right, okay.
Thanks, John.
Yeah. So I don't, maybe you don't agree necessarily what we're trying, but I think you go back to them and just under like a MnDOT environment,
Your Honor, as long as Joel understands this.
Yeah,
And he
gets it.
does, he
Yeah,
does.
totally does.
So
yeah.
he mentioned it, so.
Well, Joel and John, I mean,
And
it's-
so we're together, so.
Okay.
I'll stand, I rest then.
Okay. Okay, and I guess just to reiterate, I assume you've background checked Key and it's all good and it's responsive and all those kind of things.
Yep,
Okay.
we have worked with them before, we have a
Okay.
good working relationship with them. I've also vetted their number, and they haven't, left anything out. They stand behind the number that they're proposing.
Right, right.
Have they done a lot of work in this area? I mean, Watkins is a distance from here. We have run into situations where the project is almost done, and here's the list of little fix-its, and it takes them forever to come back because it's a long trip to get back here to fix those little, the little list of things. I just really don't want to see that happening, where we have things that are incomplete and it's waiting,
Absolutely,
So-
yep. We work really hard to make sure that doesn't happen. We do know that it does, and what we would do is we would make sure that we would, on construction meetings, weekly construction meetings that we have on site, we will always be present, we will always be there. If there is a concern there, what we could do is do punch lists like ahead of time, so do maybe 2 of them, one a couple, like a month maybe before completion, and then 1 at completion. We also hold a certain amount of retainage that they don't get until they get those pieces, and it's something we stand behind, that we're here to represent you guys. We understand that those little tiny pieces at the end that don't get fixed are the ones that frustrate you the most, and we want to make sure that those don't happen. So we do everything in our power to make sure that doesn't happen.
Thank you.
Just to follow up on the actual cost of the bid, I suspect, it's like you said, all these guys are very close on their bids. It's probably the best number you're going to get. I mean, can we attribute it to, the COVID and the supply chain and the bidding environment, or just the product increases? Is that why we have higher numbers?
Yeah, so when we went back, we did go back and we did kind of talk with a couple of the contractors to understand what their numbers were from some of their subcontractors. What we were understanding that essentially each category or each division, whether it's steel, precast, mechanical, electrical, they were all just a little higher than what we typically have been seeing right now. There is no real, steel, we all know that that's kind of going up. But there wasn't any major red flags of like, okay, this is an outlier. Everything just kind of seemed to be a little higher.
But from when we started this whole project, the whole thing, I mean, yeah, we're a little bit higher here, but we're higher than when we started. I mean, this is, what are we, a third higher? I mean, that's a huge, it's a huge chunk of money because, the question was asked right away, can we do it for this project? We're confident you can.
And remember, excuse me, Scott, if I interject something. And I asked Melissa, are we getting the Taj Mahal here? And she said, no, it's more like a comparison. She did a car comparison, and yet now we're $600,000 higher.
Yeah,
$535,000
and we're going back to value engineering again, which is the politically correct word for we're limiting, we're taking stuff down. We're I don't want to say cutting corners, but we're taking away more and more and more. And I mean, it's incredibly frustrating from a standpoint of we are confident we could do it for this. All right, we are confident we can do it for this. We're confident we can do it for this. And now today you're sitting here telling us that you're going to provide punch lists because you're confident that they can follow through. I'm not confident in anything now. I mean, and now steel's going to, if it goes up or whatever, and these people are locked into it. This smaller contractor, are they going to go broke because they have to stick with these bids and they got to buy this material and do all that stuff, and they're going to start losing money because it's going to go way beyond that. I'm really concerned that we could end up with a hole in the ground that doesn't get completed because everyone was confident it was going to happen, but.
Scott, do you know of fixes to your concern, what we could offer up as a...
Well, I guess my question, are they bonded? This is a bonded project?
Yep.
Okay. I mean, you already got the bond.
Yep.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
Yep.
so explain to me what that's going to do.
A bond?
Yeah, well, how the bond is going to protect.
So payment and performance bond is provided by the contractor to guarantee, and it guarantees the full value of the bid price. And so if they enter into a contract with the city, their bonding company would step in if the contractor defaults on the contract. So the city is protected by the payment and performance bond for the full value of the work.
Right,
All right.
right. I mean, and that's,
And you have to go
for
find
any
someone
company,
else to
that's the.
Yeah, I knew we got to find somebody else to finish it, though.
Well, no, yeah, but the bonding company
Yeah.
pays for it. That's the
Okay,
security for any
okay.
municipality is the bond,
Okay,
payment
okay.
performance.
All right.
And as far as punch list items, we would have a 5% retainage, so on.
Contracting is a reputable company, and they wouldn't put forth a bid for this work unless they were committed to completing it based on the contract that they bid on.
Okay.
In addition to the punch list items that were talked about, we would require a 5% retainage like we do on our street projects. So on a $2.3 million project, that's going to be over $100,000. And I think just prior to the meeting, we had a conversation about your current bids, and unfortunately for them, they're like us and are experiencing bids that were higher than
Yeah.
what the estimate was. So.
Yeah. So in our company, we do track, we track all of the bids that we have been bidding. And unfortunately, this week or the week that we bid this project, we bid a couple other in our office, and it was the same results, which have been different from the results we've been seeing for months to come. So we're still trying to figure out if it's what is the blimp, or is it, we are starting to transition back into, I would say normal or a typical bidding climate.
Well, if you compare it to the housing, I mean, if you talk to any home builder, they'll tell you the price of materials, raw materials, lumber, everything's just going through the roof. I mean, it's 20-25%. And, whether the reason is whatever, if it's COVID, a shortage or whatever, I'm sure there's a lot of contributing factors, But I don't think it's ever going to get cheaper is the thing.
But I agree. I'm
Right.
really just,
Right.
disappointed in the, I don't want to say we've been misled, but it feels like we've been kind of led down a path. Yeah, we can do it. We can do it. We can do it. Oh, guess what? Here's your package.
Well, Your Honor, in the research that I've done, and I visited with John and all that, and I also looked at the law pertaining to the lowest bid, and it's true that we have to accept the lowest bid. That's a fact, and the company that's before us spoken very highly, because I was concerned about, since, as Cindy was, that they're out yonder when we have Metcon right down the street from us. All things said, my vote tonight, and I'll just air it right now, would be to move forward as written, and with this company. The point that I wanted to make has been heard, and as far as the whole process is concerned, these people that are before us, the reason we picked them is they're impeccable with respect to the work that they do. Granted, Scotty, I share your frustration, but I know that the number that's before us is the best number, period.
I agree.
Okay, and if we didn't have John and Melissa here, I would be saying something different. But these folks are proven entities. The brothers out there, the construction guys, they're proven entities in the public sector, primarily in schools, but they can do the job. They're well thought of. I have no problem with what I see before us and tonight with respect to the money. I also recognize that it's a hell of a lot of money. This is just the money, it's not the land, but we've already purchased the land. I say let's just get on with this thing and vote on it and get it going. We can talk about the alteration. We haven't even let poor Melissa finish her spiel here, but maybe you don't have to. I don't know, Your Honor, but let's just get on with this thing and get her done. We've done our due diligence. We beat this thing to death, and we got good people before us we can rely on. And believe me, I've beat this thing to death. I'm done with it. Let's get on with it.
You know, and in fairness, I mean, I appreciate all the city council's input. I mean, obviously, it's taxpayer money, and you know, I certainly agree with you, Scott, and Cindy, and everybody that, you know, we want the best price for the best product for our taxpayers. And so I think it's valid. We all had some concerns. I mean, it's really good points to raise. And we're, you know, and we're not criticizing you. We're just, like, you know, we're just saying that's the bid environment we're in today. That's just the facts. And it is frustrating. I mean, we've been down the path with multiple buildings, proposed buildings in the past, as we all know. So I think, and Joel kind of used this analogy, we're on the goal line. It's time we punch it through.
That's right.
You know, so I agree with you 100%. I think we should award the contract and go down the path.
And I agree 100%.
Can we discuss the alternate, Your Honor? Melissa, if you don't mind, can we discuss that? Here's my vote on that. We take the alternate off the table. We stick with our base bid here of, what's the number?
2.3 million.
2.3 million. Let's get this damn thing on the road. All right, Your Honor, that's my vote.
I assume that's your motion?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
That's Councilman Cherney motion.
I will second the motion.
Thank you, Scotty.
Okay, there's a second by Councilman Palava. Any further discussion?
Mayor, can I just talk about the financing real briefly?
Sure.
I just want, and I know we went over this before, but I just want to, and I'm all for the project moving forward. I agree with everything that's been said tonight, but I just want to just remind everyone or make everyone understand that our property tax levy went up, well, $148,900. So we'll say $150,000 between 2020 and 2021. I had Paul Donna run some numbers. The resolution that was presented to the council for bonding was not to exceed $2.5 million. Given the bids, I did have him do one at $2.5 million. And just the levy for the police station for the next 20 years is $150,000. So right out of the gates for the next 20 years, our levy is $150,000 more, I guess, than it is today. And then in addition to that would be any other increases that, personnel, other street projects, things like that. So I just want to remind the council that, probably the next couple years there will be tax increases, and potentially substantially more than what they have been recently or are this year, so.
Right, just a couple of things to add. Maybe on your bonding, maybe you could reiterate what the cheap interest rate that we have received. That's an important factor.
Absolutely.
You know, I mean, it's, what is it, 2 or?
Yep, and actually, I had previously had a debt service schedule done at 2.2 million, and then also at 2.4 million. And I figured that going to 2.5 million would, increase that by a couple $1,000s a year, right? Actually, rates in the municipal bond market must have decreased because the actual annual debt service went down, mind you, a few $100s. But so to get another $100,000 of financing, and this is a snapshot for yesterday or the day before, was actually cheaper.
Right.
But correct.
So you're
Everyone's
basically
trying
at
to
record lows for the bond market. I think, we all get dialed in on money, but it's more than money in this case.
Way more.
We've talked about, we've all hashed this out for the last year. It's
2 years.
Well, 2 years, right.
Yeah.
It's the need, it's all those kind of things. It's the protection, it's the morale for the police, it's all those kind of things. So and I know we get dialed in on the dollars, but it is important to look at the big picture and what we're as a council are trying to accomplish here is.
And Your Honor, you always ask me if there's a word for the night, then I'll use extrinsic. There are extrinsic values here that can't be measured in dollars and cents for our community, Your Honor.
There you go. You're going to have to define it at
And
the end of the
and we're
meeting
not
for us.
feckless either with respect to our decision-making. I'll throw in an additional word, okay?
Okay.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Okay, but I mean, you're right. I mean, really, just all kidding aside, we're doing the big picture thing, and we have to move our city ahead. And I'm all for it. I mean, I get it. Nobody likes to spend more money than you have to, but that's,
But yeah, to your point on interest rates, we could have got a bid of 2 million, and if rates were 4%, we would end up
More money,
the truth
right.
in lending,
right,
actually a more
Right.
expensive project.
right.
I'd like to call a vote, Your Honor.
Okay, I just want to add, with these extra dollars, that's why the budget process this year, like every year, is really important, that we, we focus on, our needs and things like that, but. Okay, anybody else want to add anything?
I do have a question, yes, before
Okay,
we vote.
sure.
So we are totally taking off the alternate, even though it's like that little, we're in this far, we're gonna bail on $57,000 on a 2.3 million and hope to do it down the road. I just don't want to have people coming to us, well, look at, you're adding on already, down when it comes to 5 or 6 years or 10 years down the road, or when the city hall component comes in.
I think I just want to add, based in talking to the police chief, it's basically not needed. And I think we have to make sure we stay focused on that. I mean,
That was,
maybe
that was
you
the sixth stall?
Right.
Yeah.
right. Maybe you want to comment on that,
And
Joe?
I talked also with them,
Right.
and it can be either way.
Cin-
They can live with it, they can live without it.
Cindy,
So-
I'm in agreement with you. It seems like a pittance with respect to 2.5 million. Actually, throw the land at 2.8 million, 50,000 is sneeze money. With respect to, and it was difficult for me because I was for that extra garage. I was going to stand on this table tonight, but I decided that there's other things that I can stand on the table for, and let's just get this thing on the road.
Yeah, I would say we have 4 police cars in our current fleet. The chief generally has one that's his take-home car. So at any point, we're only storing 3 cars indoors, and we're 24 hours. This isn't, the fire department or whatever, where things have to be parked inside. We should have 1 car out on the road all the time. Oftentimes we have double coverage. So this isn't a long-term storage where, like plow trucks or whatever, where they've got to sit. So realistically, we don't need to make sure that there's always a parking stall for every car. And as our police department grows, if there's a need for additional cars, that means that they should be out on the road, not parked in a garage somewhere.
Make a
So,
valid point.
Good point.
so
Okay.
That's a valid point.
I'm not saying, I understand there's times where they have to go back, but there's nothing saying that the vehicles, when they're at the police department, they, in doing a report or whatever, that they have to be put in the garage. They'll be in a secured area, locked up. It doesn't, so it's, you know, it's,
Yeah.
obviously, there's gonna be times where they might have to squeeze them in or whatnot, but it's hard to,
And this is not a landlocked, this is a campus environment, as we all know. The next phase is City Hall, library, so if we see the need, boom, Michelle gets out her drafting CAD program and away we go.
There
Right?
you go.
There we go. Okay.
I will relent then.
Okay.
Well, no, we're
I-
not
I-
asking
I-
you
I-
to, we're not asking.
yeah, you never
No.
have enough garage space, I get it, but,
I did, yep.
Yeah, no,
I just want to.
I don't want to have to come and say, I told you so.
yeah.
oh, you might.
You know, I just want to just reiterate, I mean, these are all valid concerns. So
Right,
don't anybody
right.
feel like they've
No,
been,
no.
it's
No.
all good, so. Anyway, so there's a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Yes, definitely,
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Touchdown, right, Joel? Touchdown, we're over the goal line?
2-point conversion?
Here comes the garage again. No, no. Easily.
All right, thank you.
Thank you all.
Yeah,
Thank
thanks,
you.
Fuller.
Make it happen.
Hope you didn't feel you were,
John, thanks a lot for being
Didn't
here.
get you up too bad.
all right.
Thanks, John.
Yeah.
Yeah, bye-bye.
Thank you.
So I will work with Paul Donna between now and the next council meeting and work on securing financing.
Good, good deal. On to consider approval of application for payment number 2, the final in the amount of $6,904.14 to Pembroke Companies, Inc. for the Trichka Park Ice Rink slab. Mr. Powell.
Mayor and City Council members, just a reminder, the scope of this contract was the placement of aggregate base and installation of the concrete slab for the hockey rink. That included the steel reinforcement. Pembroke Companies has completed the work and have requested approval of the final pay voucher. As this is the final payment, they have also submitted their IC 134s, a lien waiver, consent of surety to final payment, and our 2-year maintenance bond, which is standard on our contracts. The original contract price was $138,082.75. We received a credit via change order 1 of $6,000 for changing from epoxy coated to non-epoxy coated. And the final contract amount was $132,082.75. Many times on contracts, we have what we call compensating or adjusting the quantities. Well, it was a very defined slab and aggregate base, so there were no changes in the quantities on this. So the final contract amount is 4.3% under the original amount. The work represented on the attached application has been completed in accordance with the plans and specs. So it's our recommendation to approve pay voucher number 2, which is the final, to Pembroke Companies in the amount of $6,904.14.
Okay. Questions, anybody?
I'll make a motion to approve pay voucher number 2 for $6,904.14 to Pembroke Companies.
Motion by Councilman Palava,
Second.
second by Councilperson Fuhrer. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Councilman Cherney, are you okay with the final payment?
I read through it, Your Honor, and I am.
Okay. Opposed? Motion carries. Just on that last one with the police facility, I want to thank Councilman Palava for all your work at the task force meetings and Jason and Joel, all you guys involved in that. It's, I'm sure there's a lot of time spent, but I appreciate all your work on it.
It's worth it.
Okay. Consider approval of the plans and specifications to authorize staff to request bids for the Trichka Park parking lots and walkways project. Mr. Powell.
Mayor and council members, so also at Trichka Park, we've prepared bid documents for the installation of the parking lot and walkways, and I would note this also includes one catch basin at the corner of the parking lot that discharges to the ditch. It wasn't a major bid item, but that is included in the contract. As highlighted on the attached plan, it includes also the bituminous parking area and walkway, including the striping, 4-inch concrete sidewalk, and 8-inch concrete drive areas. And finally, it includes the concrete curb and gutter along the west and north sides of the parking area. In 2020, city staff graded and placed the aggregate base. Aggregate base has been surveyed to verify existing elevations, and the aggregate thickness has also been verified. The plans are substantially complete, and Parks and Rec was updated on this project at their January meeting. City's not required to advertise for bids for this project, so like the process used for the rink slab, a request for bids will be forwarded directly to contractors that perform this type of work. The schedule for the proposed work is issuing the request for bids, if approved by City Council, receiving the bids on February 16th, awarding a contract at the February meeting, and then beginning construction around mid-May, weather permitting. Using the quantities of work as indicated on the plan that was attached to the council memo and updated unit prices, the estimated cost for the project is $149,600. So our recommendation is to approve the plans and specs and authorize a request for bids for the parking lot and walkway contract at Trichka Park.
Okay, anybody have any questions or thoughts or?
Can you clarify for me? I wasn't quite sure what the product is here on these, I'll call them the islands at the end of the north and south end of the parking area with the striping in it. Are those flat? Are they raised? Are they?
It's, Mayor and council members, it's just striped.
Okay,
Yep.
okay.
Similar to the other parking lot at the east end
At
of
the
the
east,
fields.
okay.
Yep.
Yeah, I'd just like a sanity
Yes.
check with respect to monies on this. If
Okay.
Joel could kind of give us a update where we're at with this project.
Well, the park fund is running a deficit to, quite frankly, because of this project. We did include in our levy for 2021 the funds to pay for the proposed work, the parking lot and the concrete
You did.
walkways.
So at the end of this year, we'll be zeroed out?
No, we would still be a deficit in the park fund, but
Oh, still the 400 something?
correct. Yep, all we
Okay.
levied was the 160,000.
And so how do we get that back? How do we get the fund back up to?
Well, you could either transfer from the general fund or levy for it, tax for it.
Okay.
See, in the past, which it's kind of unfortunate, obviously, the development would pay for the park system. You know, whether it's land or cash in lieu.
But we don't have that here.
Right, exactly right. And that's why it, you know, I think Ben touched on it at the last meeting, that, you know, our inventory of lots is kind of coming down towards the end of, at least really nice lots, you know, you got infill lots and stuff. And so I think hopefully it's time now to, you know, to get some developers interested in Lonsdale again and you know, maybe get some subdivisions going, you know.
You know, Your Honor, I've kicked this thing around countless hours with respect to funds, and I said to Joel today, I said, I'd love to be able to talk to the council and then we agree on, rather than consternate and over the remaining amount on the park, this dollar amount, we have $8-9 million in reserves, which is great. You've done a great job here. I'd say when this, that's why I asked the question, if this is the final on this, and we have a final number, and at the end of the year, at the end of all said and done, we're about $474,000 yet owing on that, rather than levy for it and impact all of our other projects, we strongly take a good hard look at the overall picture, and my recommendation from what I see financially in this town, I would make a motion to take it from reserves, as we took from the reserves to buy the land here. These are investments. There's extrinsic value, Your Honor, that we talked about, and as we go forward in the budget this year, I'm going to stand on the table on that one.
Hey, you know, you raise a good point, and I think we all need to analyze it. It's good for budget discussion, because I think actually, maybe you even brought it up, but at one of the budget meetings, you say, maybe we look at a larger bond, a big picture bond.
Exactly.
I mean, especially in today's interest, you know, right.
You should take advantage of it.
Right, take advantage of the bond.
Yeah.
I'm not a big guy at burning the reserves, just because you never know. But I'm with you on the
You
bond thing.
understand,
Yeah,
though,
what we're trying to
the
accomplish. And I think those are good discussions for the budget meetings.
And that's
Right.
why I'm planting the seed now, Your
Right.
Honor,
It's a good
to let
idea.
you all know where I stand.
Right. Right, I mean, I agree, we have to find the big picture, you know, what we're gonna try to accomplish, whether it's, you know, devise a 5-year capital outlay
Yeah,
plan
there you
again
go.
with, you know, and all those kind of things, but yeah, I mean, I agree with you, I think we should look at that at the budget meetings.
Thank you, sir.
Right.
Yeah, I'd make a motion to go ahead then, Your Honor, with this resolution.
Motion by Councilman Cherney,
Second.
second by Councilman Palava. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Update on the bidding process for the 2021 street and utility improvement project. Mr. Powell.
Mayor and City Council members, bids for this project were opened at 10 o'clock on January 26th. Just a reminder, this is our 2021 street and utility project, so we expect work to begin mid-May and be completed by mid-September, with the final completion date of June 30th the following year for Batuna's wearing course placement. We received the bids. We had 8 bidders for the project. We had about 19 prime or contractors who could have bid it as prime. 8 ended up bidding it as prime. The engineer's estimate was about just over 1.6 million. The low bid was from BCM Construction in the amount of $1,516,804. BCM has done similar projects for the city in the past. Probably not coincidentally, the top 3 bids or the lowest bids are 3 contractors very familiar with the city and the work area and the work scope, having done projects, either street and utility or street projects in the past. After the low 3, it jumped up to about 1.8 or 1.9 million. So we're very pleased with the bids and that we had 8 bidders submit on it. There's no action aside from receiving the bids this evening. We'll schedule the public hearing and declare the cost to be assessed as separate actions, and then after the hearing, award the contract.
Okay, any questions, comments, anyone on this item?
When was the last time BCM worked at Lonsdale? Was that on,
Phase 3.
okay.
And by the church there,
Okay.
right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah. Consider approval of resolution 2021-07, a resolution declaring the cost to be assessed and ordering preparation of proposed assessment for the 2021 street and utility improvement project. Mr. Erickson.
Thank you, Mayor, members of the council. With the bid opening earlier this week and the city engineer reviewing the bid tab and presented to the council, the next step is to approve resolution 2021-7, which declares the amount to be assessed and orders preparation of the proposed assessment. Following that, the next step would be the assessment hearing, and I believe scheduling that as the next agenda item. By approving the proposed resolution, the city council is declaring the city will pay $1,452,351 or 73.15% based off of the engineer's estimate. Declaring special assessments will total just under $533,000 or just under 27%. Again, declaring the total project cost to be $1.985 million based off the feasibility. Stating assessments will be payable over a term of 15 years and bear an interest rate of 4.9%. This is the typical resolution that the council has considered in the past. I put some, as far as the city, options for how to charge interest should the council want to change that. Since the city began adopting assessments prior to awarding a contract, interest has been calculated beginning when the assessment roll is adopted. In prior years, all the project costs would be known, they'd be calculated, and then assessments would be established based off of that information. Given the contentiousness of assessments and the fact that they're increasing in every community, more and more residents are choosing to appeal. We actually had a resident appeal our Main Street project. Prior to reviewing the statute again this year, interest was started accruing when the assessment roll was adopted. So again, typically that would have been done in November, and they would essentially pay 13 months or 14 months of interest. The timeline that we have been on recently is essentially 22 months of interest. Reviewing state statute 429.061, it now states, to the first installment of each assessment shall be added interest on the entire assessment. And what's changed here is from a date specified in the resolution levying the assessment, not earlier than the date of the resolution until December 31st of the year in which the first installment is payable. The reason I bring that up is because that could be, obviously the city was following state statute, and the amount of interest paid affects what the city has to levy for property tax to gap finance the annual debt service. But this would be one way to save property owners some money, albeit minimal, but some money over the course of the first year of interest. Alternatively, the city could assess consistent principal and interest amounts based off of the total interest paid over 15 years. So we're proposing to assess, I believe it's $14,000 plus interest. So off the top of my head, I don't know if I have it in here. We'll say that with interest, it's $15,000 for round numbers total. You could then charge $1,000 a year over that 15 years. They're still paying the same amount. It's just the principal isn't on a declining or sliding scale based off of the declining principal balance due every year. So you'd still be paying the same amount of interest. You just wouldn't be paying more in the first year and less each
It wouldn't be
subsequent.
amortizing?
Correct. It would just be the same amount every single year. As far as options for calculating the interest, we're going to be recommending the assessment hearing be held at the next council meeting, February 25th. It could begin there. It could be again accruing the date the city closes on the bonds, which date is not yet known. Begin accruing January 1st of 2022, or a date in between the anticipated assessment hearing of February 25th and November 15th of this year.
So when would we actually have to start paying interest on the bonds as a city? What date? When they close?
Correct, yes.
I don't think it'd be fair to charge residents prior to that if we're not paying interest, right?
Correct. So you could say interest would begin accruing the date that the city sells the bonds.
Right.
Joe, if we didn't charge interest at all, can we write that off as against our ledger at all? The amount that, and the reason I bring this up, Your Honor and Council, is because of the COVID environment that we're in only. I do not want to set a precedent going forward, but because of this last year who has turned the world upside down for residents and for businesses across the nation, I'd like to consider that with respect to these assessments.
I guess the only thing that I would be concerned is that not everybody is affected. I don't know if you could have a hardship clause just for somebody that applies based on the COVID.
That's what I'm saying, Your Honor.
Yeah.
And because this is happening, because we're initiating this to them as a city, and it just so happens that you understand that.
Yeah, I guess, I'm going to use Andrew from Smoke, for example. I mean, right now, he's having, if he got, on his personal property, if he was assessed, I mean, that would be, he would have a legitimate, come on, I'm trying really hard here, and I'm getting kicked every time you're down.
That's the spirit of this.
Right.
Yeah, so, I can understand that.
How would that play out?
Well, that's just it. I mean, you'd have to have a very clear threshold of, what that hardship is. you know.
Because this is by state
it-
statute, some of this
Is
stuff,
it,
right?
you know, is it, my hours got reduced from 40 to 32? Is it I lost my job? I
Well,
mean,
I'm making it more macro. I'm just saying, this is the project here, these are the houses. I don't care about the individual in terms of assessing their hardship. I'm just saying that the hardship, from my standpoint, is that I'm going to assume that there's hardship across all residences affected by this. That's my assumption for COVID only. The second assumption is that the hardship, if I was one of those, would be the assessment, but that little piece in there of that interest that I think we have control over, in fact, I know we have control over, I'm asking for consideration, but I'm asking consideration with diligence. I want to know what that number, how much we would be losing, because that money has to be captured somewhere, you know, that we would be
Well,
gaining.
right, it'll be captured by the rest of the taxpayers.
Right,
basically.
it would be spread, but I want to know the magnitude of it.
Right, right.
I think it's worth consideration. Joe did a great job writing the resolution earlier regarding the businesses, and I put this on that same scope and spirit.
I guess I misunderstood. I thought you were talking more like a deferment like we have currently.
I wasn't talking
Okay,
deferment,
okay.
but that's an excellent option. That's an
That
excellent
is-
option.
But that's already out there for.
But
the
I think that's
65
there,
or-
isn't it?
Yeah,
or
for
the
that-
criteria
For
that's-
65
yeah.
older?
In those,
and
in
the
that-
active
those-
military.
So
and stuff.
no,
various
mine,
pieces.
it goes beyond that, Scotty.
Yeah, I just, you know, I know we've adopted the state statute for it because it makes it clean. And it's not, we're not, there's not a lot of influence, you know, to us, you know, to.
Sure, sure.
Figuring out, okay, well, we think this this category should get it or whatever. There's no favoritism. We just use the state statute to make it easy.
And in fairness, I don't know what kind of money we're talking. I don't know what 3% really is here. I don't know what it means
I
to.
don't know how you'd quantify that until you went through like an application
Well-
and review process.
And that's what
you know,
triggered it when you said that, Joel, as far
You know,
as how
and
the bonding.
these interest payments, the first interest payment with their property taxes is gonna be in May of '22.
Right.
You know, what about the people that have their first interest payment due in 3 months?
Yeah.
From last year's project, you know?
Yeah.
Because they got assessed 2 weeks before COVID?
Okay, I'll withdraw it. I'll withdraw it. It sounds like it could be turned into something that we don't want it to turn. I'll withdraw that.
But I do agree with the premise. I mean, yeah,
Okay.
it makes sense. We need to be supportive of our.
Do we have the
residents.
capability of, could we potentially charge, in order to simplify it, since we don't know if we're starting here or there, what, you know, how, is it this before? Could we say 0 till for the first year?
Well, that's an interesting thought.
And then everybody, then they're,
level playing
when
field.
when they start getting assessed, they've got something already there. So they're not paying before the project starts.
That's an excellent.
But I don't know what
Yeah,
kind of dollars that equates
Yeah.
to either, you know.
Yeah.
Hey, you know, what really makes it risky is how deep you think this, because maybe half the residents aren't affected. I mean, half the world is doing better, you know, and half is not.
Well, that's why
You
you
know, and
have-
then the other aspect is, actually, theoretically, the value of their home should be increasing substantially with a new street. So from an equity position, they may not be out, but
but-
from a cash flow, they could be, right.
Your Honor, there's so.
Right, it really gets
I mean,
pretty deep how
it's
deep you think it.
It's deep.
Leave it alone.
I think
And
leave it
let's,
alone.
I withdraw, that's why I'm withdrawing. I'm withdrawing it.
Yeah,
You
yeah,
know, and really, it's not gonna catch up to them until their escrow in '23.
right. You know, and every, you know, and then you look at, you know, the government send out checks to
Oh,
everybody, you got, you know, what is, you know.
I'm sorry
Anyway.
that I brought it up.
It's good that you, I mean,
I-
you're being cognizant of
Well-
the taxpayers and the
Right.
residents. I
Well,
mean,
thanks,
that's,
Scotty.
that's what
Right.
we're supposed to be doing.
Right.
Okay, well,
Good job.
thanks.
All right, so was that, somebody made a motion to that effect?
Sure, I did,
Okay,
Your Honor. I
okay.
think.
So we're
count-
keeping the interest
Yeah,
Yep.
just like we went.
February 25th,
Yep.
or whenever these, okay.
Yeah. Okay, so there's a motion by Councilman Cherney to approve the resolution 2021-07.
Yes.
Second.
Second by Councilman Palava. Is there any further discussion?
No.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Consider approval of Resolution 2021-08, a resolution scheduling the public hearing on proposed assessments for the 2021 street and utility improvement project. Mr. Exel.
All right, thank you, Mayor, members of the council. with the, kind of the interest determined and how everything's going to be calculated. The next step in the process is to actually schedule the public hearing. By approving the proposed resolution, the council would be setting the public hearing for 7 p.m. on Thursday, February 25th, 2021 here in the council chambers, directing the city administrator to publish the notice of the hearing in the official paper, mailed out the necessary notices to property owners required by law, allow property owners to pay the entire assessment in full within 30 days of adoption of the resolution without interest. That is statute, stating that if the assessment is paid off any time thereafter, the payment is made to the city less the amount on the current year property tax statement. If the payment is made after November 15th, interest is accrued through December 31st of the following year. This is because the city has already adopted its preliminary levy, and we've accounted for that interest as part of our financing in addition to the property tax levy. 2 pages here. The fiscal impact is to the city would be conducting the assessment hearing, the staff time, the cost of publication, and mailed notices. The alternative would be to not approve the proposed resolution, resulting in the assessment hearing being conducted at a later date. And then attachments to the staff report are the proposed resolution, the proposed preliminary assessment roll, and then a draft assessment hearing mailed notice. I typically don't include the mailed notice with my staff report, but here recently over the last couple years, for various reasons, there seems to be confusion on when the assessment is due without interest, things like that.
Right.
So what I did was took the letter that we are required to send out and what's required to be contained in there and kind of itemize each of those points. So what's being itemized is the amount to be assessed against the property, that the assessment is to be payable over 15 years, 4.9% interest. It addresses to the first payment shall be interest added on the entire assessment from the date of the resolution until December 31st of 2022. They may at any time prior to certification of the assessment to Rice County pay the entire assessment with interest accrued to the date of payment to the city of Lonsdale. In bold, italics, underlined, I don't highlight in
flashing
yellow. No interest shall be charged on the entire assessment if paid within 30 days of adoption of the assessment. The next one, this is your only notice. You will not receive an invoice. This is your invoice. And then it goes into if paid after, who to pay to, and then if you decide to not prepay the assessment before the given date, the rate is 4.9%. So I hope, and everything else is required by statute to be included in here. So I hope with these changes and itemizing and kind of clearly defining and delineating this stuff that we don't run into any issues.
Okay, so what are you scheduling a public hearing?
Correct, for our next council meeting, which is Thursday, February 25th at 7 p.m. or shortly thereafter.
So moved.
Go ahead. I
Motion
just
by
said,
Councilman Palava,
Second?
second by Councilperson Fear. Any further discussion?
yes, Your Honor, I was just wondering if there'd be any consideration of moving that to 6 o'clock. That's, it's very cold, it's dark, and when we have these hearings, we're lucky that Andrea comes, and would 6 o'clock be amenable to?
Sure, for me it does. It's up to you guys.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. So amend the motion to 6 p.m. Any further discussion?
That's all.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you, Council.
Then we would need a motion to schedule the city council meeting for 6 PM.
So moved.
Motion by Councilman Cherney.
Second that
Second
one.
by Councilman Palava. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Consider approval of Resolution 2021-09, a resolution accepting a donation from the TCU Soccer Club. Mr. Baker.
Thank you, Mayor Root and members of the council. Anytime the city gets a donation, we do it by resolution so that everybody's on the same page and it's clear. City recently received a check for $637.74. That same amount was also sent to the city of Montgomery for their soccer program. And the money is specified to be used for improvements and maintenance to Trichka Park soccer fields. Nothing in particular, just towards the fields at Trichka Park. So with that, the park board reviewed this at their meeting on the 12th and recommended approval, and staff would also recommend approval of this resolution and donation.
Motion to approve the donation from the TCU Soccer Club.
Motion by Councilman Palava.
Second?
Second by Councilperson Fear. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Send out a big thank you to TCU Soccer Club. Pretty cool area, that soccer field and hockey rink and all that. Consider approval of Resolution 2021-10, a resolution approving the Willow Creek Commons 4th Edition preliminary and final plats. Mr. Baker.
Thank you, Mayor Root and members of the council. This is another step in the process to getting our new police department up and going. Obviously, you guys know a lot of the background, so in turning to the maps themselves, one of the attachments is the resolution and has the preliminary plat, which looks like a survey, and then the final plat, which is a much cleaner version that shows the area that's being platted and the associated utility easements. So the Planning Commission did hold a public hearing and recommended approval of this plat. And essentially, what this does is it makes it a buildable lot. Right now, it has been an outlot. So similar to our business park or the Rolling Ridge Marketplace where the bank is being built. Those are set up as outlots to be further subdivided as development happens. So now that the police department is being developed, just like Dollar General, the car wash, and the clinic, we turn those into lots, and that's what this is doing. It's also giving a utility easement for the sewer and water lines that go to the police department, and officially putting Commerce Drive Southeast on the plat. So with that, it would be the Planning Commission and the staff's recommendation to approve Willow Creek Commons 4th Edition preliminary and final plat.
Anybody?
So moved,
Yep.
Your Honor.
Motion by Councilman Cherney.
I'll second. Yep.
Second by Councilman Palava. Any further discussion?
We're just looking through it all.
Thought maybe he dozed off there.
No, no.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Consider approval of a quote in the amount of $106,000 and a 5-year lease term submitted by SEMA Equipment to purchase a John Deere 5125R utility tractor. Mr. Vlasak.
Mr. Mayor, City Council, as in the packet, you see we received 3 bids for a replacement tractor to look towards the future on our equipment needs. This tractor will give us a better way to mow the grass, and it will give us future potential for other equipment to be added to it, to have backup for an additional snow blower. The 1969 blower that we have works well, but we would definitely like to have backup in the future. So the idea is to add on to this tractor as we go to be able to get some backup for other areas. We did get 3 bids, as I said, and John Deere was low bidder. This does fit into our budget amount for the next, well, anyway, for this year, so hopefully it will be a budget, standard budget amount for payment of this piece of equipment. Any questions?
Will we ever own the equipment?
Pardon me?
Will the city ever own it? I see it's a lease.
It's a lease purchase.
It is a lease
Yep.
purchase, okay, good.
And is this to replace that one that's damaged?
This is to go in its place on the mower, yeah.
Okay.
Could have a heated
We're-
cab.
That's not the case?
No, this will be an addition, we're fixing.
Oh, yes. it's-
That other one's being fixed?
Yep.
Okay, that's why I was curious.
I'm sorry, I
All right.
missed.
All right, yeah, okay, that's fine.
And this is a 2021 model?
It'll be a 2021.
Okay,
If it gets approved, it will be ordered.
okay. I did some looking, and I think that looks like a pretty good price, because I saw a 19 that was 98,000, had only 125 hours, but it had no front-end PTO, which is a $4,000 add-on roughly. So
You're doing a good job as a department head, by gosh.
I was bored this afternoon.
I was gonna say, you must really been
That's the
bored.
motivation right there, you were bored?
State bid helps with
They are very hard to compare apples to apples.
Yeah.
Because there are so many differences between brands even, and even from the models, they can have this transmission, these hydraulics and that hydraulics.
Right, right,
It's tough.
right. So based on your research, Councilwoman?
I would say I think this will work well. Are they going to be able to drive it with this step of front wheel assist? Or,
We have front wheel assist already
okay.
on other tractors.
But this is a little bit larger than what they're used to driving. Or whoever,
We have demoed tractors
Okay.
of this size.
okay,
And when our other tractor was in for repair, we leased a tractor of this size. So we know that it will work for what we're using it for.
okay.
You could always show them how, though, if you did.
Yep.
I'll watch a YouTube, right? It's all good.
That's fine.
Okay, since you're
I move we approve the purchase of the 5125R,
25-hour,
yes, from SEMA Equipment at $106,000.
motion
Scott,
made.
since you're the mechanic, I think you should second this, baby.
I don't know anything about them, they're green.
Perfect, that's all you need.
I'll second it.
Motion by Councilperson Fear, second by Councilman Palava. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. That concludes the planned agenda. On to department reports. Mr. Blesak.
Mr. Mayor, City Council, we have been very busy on maintaining ice and trying to remove ice on one side or the other. So, as it looks that this weekend we might have another event. Unfortunately, it's being weekends for the event. It's a bummer, but it is what it is. Looking at our GIS, met with the new individual from WSB on the GIS, starting to get back into that, trying to update make sure our GIS is updated as good as possible to as-built that we have and non-as-built that we have. So we'll be working on that also. Getting ready for next year's projects. Meeting with John WSB next week to look at those sewer repairs, or the following week, I'm sorry. Yep. To look at those sewer repairs so we can get them hopefully bid here shortly also. And then our street projects will be, or I should say internal projects that we'll be looking at trying to get bids on shortly.
Okay, thank you, sir, for all your work. Mr. Powell.
Mayor and council, nothing beyond what you've already discussed as part of the agenda.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Erickson?
Well, between tonight and our next meeting, next week, we've got our fire board meeting with the surrounding townships. We'll be getting an update on 2020 activity, calls, runs, reviewing and considering approval of the fire department's 2022 budget. We've got a liquor store meeting Tuesday night. Be getting the assessment hearing notices out since everything was approved. Public Works, seasonal Public Works ad to the paper. Working with Wold on the PD project. Helping Tammy with some finance stuff. And wrapping up with Mayor Rude, the state of the city. And hopefully that is, or not hopefully, it will be out on Monday.
One thing
Thank
I would
you.
like to add, that we did purchase a spray device for cleaning or debugging. We're doing City Hall once a week. We're doing the liquor store once a week. We'll start doing the library next week once a week also. And we're doing the warming house every day, both warming houses. So, just so you're aware of that.
Yeah, thank you.
You mean insects? Insects? Is that what you're talking about? COVID? Okay. Is that a walk-around unit? Okay, because we put a $2,000 unit. In fact, I recommended Joe for City Hall. They are actually coming out now in our club that kills it on the surfaces and in the air using ultraviolet light and ozone.
Really?
Yes, sir.
It's interesting.
Yeah, and there's cities in Wisconsin now that in public offices they're putting them in. So about $2,000 for 5,000 square feet.
It's been any grant dollars left.
I wish we did,
Right,
Your
well,
Honor.
we're trying. Right, good point.
Just wait for the second round.
There you go.
No, oh my God! Hold on to your.
Well, that's why staff spec'd out the kind of the backpacker Ghostbuster sprayer so we could use it in multiple.
Right.
Sure.
Right.
Does it work well? I corrected the
We
problem?
hope so. I mean, it works well.
Okay.
It is interesting to use. It has, it gives you electrical shock. In the manual, it says you will get,
You get shocked.
you get shocked.
I'll
And
keep
it's
you,
supposed to do that?
Yeah, that's it.
I'll keep you moving.
Oh, there
Okay.
you go.
I wonder if it's static, the
Pretty shocked there.
ionization of it and everything.
Something about it, it's like, what the heck is wrong with this?
Take off your shoes and walk around so your socks are on the carpet and it'll transfer.
Supposedly it's getting better now, so it's shocking less.
Mr.
If
Baker.
it burns, it works.
No pain, no gain.
What a world.
Mr. Baker.
Joel couldn't believe it either, so you think he had to try it.
Yeah, I got shocked.
Really had to try it.
You're a believer.
That sounds like the dog training collar too.
Exactly.
Not going that far.
Start barking at the moon or something. Okay, anyway.
Mr. Baker?
Park Board and Planning Commission both of them had their first meetings of the year, so they went through all their things they discussed and accomplished last year, and we reviewed that. They did their nominations and appointments of officers. We had a first at the Planning Commission meeting. They actually had 2 nominations for vice chair, so they're going to table it till next week.
Oh my
Pretty
gosh.
controversial, so.
This is a really big decision, man.
Usually it's the other way around, people go and hide one. Otherwise, we just talked about some of the things that we did tonight, and looking forward to a good year, so.
Good. Good deal.
Okay.
Thank you. Councilman Cherney?
Oh, thanks, Your Honor. Library Board Zoom met. We have a new board member, and that which is very good. Library will be opening the public kind of regular. Still social distancing and mask on February 1st. And it looks like a pretty exciting year coming up with all the things that are planned with Marguerite. She does an excellent job over there. One other announcement, there's a group in town called the Old Time, what is it? Cindy, what is the name of the group? Old Town Lonsdale is having an event coming up called Loving Lonsdale. And so the whole impetus for the group is to foster interest in Main Street businesses, Your Honor, and that's coming up. In fact, we were going to ask you to do a K-check spot, but son of a gun, I didn't know that it's the last Monday of the month, and this is coming before that, so maybe next time.
We'll give you a retroactive attaboy.
Thank you, thank you.
Thank you for all your work.
Thank you, sir.
Councilperson Fuhrer.
The liquor store will meet on Tuesday, but as we just did this evening, we are looking at hiring the full-time person and also with the donation to the park board.
Thank you for all your work, ma'am.
Thank you.
Councilman Palava.
Last week, the EDA met. We welcomed a renewing member, Andrew Rasmussen, signed on after doing an interim spot, and then our new member, Bonnie Simon. I actually talked to her yesterday, and she was like, "This is really cool. I like,
Good.
you know," and
Good.
she's really enjoying it. And
Good deal.
for somebody that's been here, you know, for her whole life, she's like, "Boy, it's really cool to, you know, see the stuff going on in the background and be part of that." So,
Good deal.
yeah. So we covered our advertising moving forward and whatnot. We're getting bids for our online advertisers. Those videos that are associated with our the promoting Lonsdale, and a couple other items. And yeah, so we actually had a really good meeting, a lot of good discussion about stuff, trying to help smaller businesses out and working with the chamber to get the message out that there are programs available for running a small business that small businesses often forget about. So that was a good discussion there too. I did want to say something to Mr. Powell here, based on our, and I was, once again tonight, I'm not unhappy with Wold. I was just very disappointed in that.
It's okay.
But you know, here we have, you know, the WSB engineer's opinion of cost on this street project came in at 1.6 million, and we were at 1.5 was the lowest bid. You know, that's what we like to see. We, you know, with the anticipation. That's what's, you know, it's accurate, and it was very frustrating when it keeps getting pat on the back. You know, it's frustrating when it just keeps, like, you know, it keeps, you know, increasing the number, and you know, and this isn't anybody's first time around doing this, and I understand there are unexpected, but at the same time. So
Yeah, but you raise a valid point. I mean, if we know it in advance it's 2.3, then we can deal with it.
Yeah.
Now we're kind of stuck. Now here's your number. This is it. We can't rethink things. Can't redesign it. You know.
Your Honor, I'll just speak for myself. I'm going to make a big push next time we go with a big project that we kind of do the QT on let's get it designed. You know, everybody kind of knew what our budget number was when it was floating out there, Your Honor. And I know if I was a contractor, and I by God, if I thought I could get it, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm thinking we need to.
Because you're right. I mean, they told us that's the number.
Exactly.
All the firms did.
All of them.
All the
Exactly.
firms.
Exactly.
Yeah. So whoever's doing your
you guys are
estimating here, you yourself, okay, well.
I just don't want the.
But you're right. And then did they have an outside firm estimate the project for them? That's what's really frustrating.
Yeah. So anyhow, I want to give you an attaboy for that, because, you know, that's good there, and that, you know, that I wasn't trying to beat up on it. It was frustrating. I want to ask Joel one thing about that. I forgot to touch base. Are they indeed an all-in? They're a set price, or does their rate go up with the project?
I did follow up with them. What their contract says is if it deviates from the 1.5 more than 10%, kind of opens the door for negotiations. I did speak with Melissa, and they said that they would honor their price of what it was set at the 1.5 million.
Which you should, and maybe you want to get that in writing just to firm that up.
Okay.
Right.
But at least we have that, there's
yeah.
a little humility there. Otherwise,
Okay, no, you're right. It's very, yeah,
no,
it's
that's
okay.
so-
It's a good point.
And Scott, I talked to you briefly. I was going to ask you, and I'm going to ask you. I try not to ask anybody a question that tip them off ahead of time if it's legal to do that. With respect to your vote at the EDA for Spectrum to focus on businesses, because people are moving to Lonsdale residential-wise, could you just let the public know a little bit about that vote?
well, we just have our, we run them for about 6 months. We run the
That's the videos
the
and
pre-roll videos,
Right.
and there's targeted markets, a lot of the South Metro, and then we're targeting Owatonna. And of that, we've been kind of doing a 50-50 mix of both residential promotion and business promotion.
Yep.
And unfortunately, it's really hard to quantify how your advertising is working. But we looked at it. Dollars for donuts. Are we getting a good return advertising to the potential residential, future resident? People right now, the housing market is so hot. There's very little out there. People are moving. They're moving where the homes are.
Sure.
They want to move up. Actually, on the TV this morning, they covered that the push to move into the cities is completely backwards now. People want to move out of the cities. To advertise for Lonsdale.
Sure.
I mean, I don't say it's a moot point, but people want to move out. They want to get out of the cities, and we really need to grow our business infrastructure quite a bit. I mean, I'll use Elko New Market, which is about this comparable population. They don't have hardly any businesses,
Right.
And they still continuing to grow residential-wise.
Sure.
So we didn't agree, or we didn't think as the EDA that we really needed to market heavily to residential. The people are going to go where the houses are.
Sure.
And and
Well,
where it's affordable. But businesses, that's where we need to
Yeah, that's a
get
good.
get our foot in the door
It's
with them.
very logical. It scared the heck out of me today, though, when I looked at the Lonsdale review there, and said Montgomery beats Lonsdale in building permits, residential building permits. And it scared, and I thought,
Yeah, well, one thing about building permits, and Ben could probably cover that too. I know in the past we've talked about when we were on the planning commission,
Sure.
not every city does building permits the same way. So we could do a new home permit and that is all encompassing, which covers mechanical, plumbing, or not electrical, but mechanical, plumbing, footing,
Sure,
blah, blah, blah.
sure.
Other cities, they do a framing permit, a footing permit, a roofing permit, and they're all broken up. So it's not really apples to apples.
okay.
And, right, and another thing that you'll find, for example, is I think all those lots basically is the Barnett subdivision are half of what they are in
Right on,
Lonsdale.
yeah.
So they're just trying to get them
See,
out the door
and
and
that's
get
why I
them.
wanted
Yeah.
to talk about it.
Right.
We shouldn't be
Yeah.
alarmed. We're
Yeah.
still the
Yeah.
we're still the creme de creme.
Right.
Yeah, and
Don't everybody forget it.
That's right.
And Ben covered that
If
with
you
the
do,
plan.
get out.
Ben covered that with the planning commission. Every year he would do the building permits. So he'd bring it to us too. So I don't know if Montgomery is specifically that way. I can't recall, but I know that definitely can change.
So we want them right here.
Well, I mean,
Okay. All right. Thanks.
I get one more topic before we wrap up is so we did meet with the Lonsdale Food Shelf today. We actually had a good meeting, and their leases are going to expire, I think, in March of next year. But they originally planned to go into a potential building that is not going to be, online to be constructed in the time frame. So they've had some interest in our old police station, and then they've had interest in a couple other buildings throughout the community. And I don't think we can answer this tonight, but we should get at least some thinking of what we are going to do with the old building. They have a lot of interest in it, and Joel needs to do some research on the legalities of, selling or leasing or selling for a nominal fee or whatever to help the food shelf. But I guess my point is, if that can't work, what is our end game for that? And that's, we can't answer tonight. But I mean, is it an auction, a sale, whatever? But we should just keep that in the back of our minds over the next, month or two as to what we.
I'd like to
what
give
they're
them
doing.
City Hall.
Well, unfortunately, we can't give them anything.
Right.
No, I'm just being
Yeah,
facetious.
no, but
I mean, this would be an excellent spot for it.
that would be,
pretty
for any public facility, it has to be sold at a,
And it's because they're a nonprofit.
Well,
right?
no,
We can't
anything,
show-
we can't just gift it to them.
Right.
It's because this is taxpayer money.
Right.
So-
Kind of being facetious.
Oh, yeah, I
but-
understand, yeah, I understand. So that's the challenge. That's why I think they're saying about we have to do our research, but yeah.
So I think it probably, and we chat a little bit, we probably should have an appraisal either way. You know, you hate to spend the $500-600, but whatever you do with it, at least it's justified then. So maybe we, go down that path, and Joel was gonna, like I say, do some
John,
research.
how
with
many
it.
square feet do they need?
Well, I think they're only wanting,
3,000?
2 to 3,000.
Yeah.
Right,
Okay, that's pretty small.
right. So they've been talking to Trondheim Church up there, which is fine. I mean, obviously we want them in the community.
Sure.
So anyway, that's just.
Fortunately or unfortunately, I mean, they can't go anywhere else. They're a local food shelf. They can't go to Elko New Market or Northfield or whatever, where the
Right.
real estate that might be available. It's a community food shelf, so it has to
And there's
stay.
a few different dynamics. I mean,
Yeah.
I think they want a building where there's privacy,
Yep.
for their clients and stuff like that.
That makes sense.
But, so those are a couple things we can maybe kick around over the next few weeks till the next meeting. So. All right, well, I think we earned our money tonight, don't you guys?
It's before 9 o'clock, too.
Motion to adjourn.
Motion by Councilman Palava,
Second.
second by Councilperson Fuhrer. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. This meeting is adjourned.